Hey everyone, welcome to another National Pilates Training Community class on the Wunda chair. We're still going to be going through a lot of the basic to introductory repertoire, and today we'll be focusing on some of the exercises that we've already gone through in the last few classes. However, we're going to be incorporating some small laps today, being the TheraBand you'll also need a pole as well for the end, and a box for our triceps and shrugs today. So essentially what we're going to do is we are going to go through some of the rep that we've already been through. We're going to add some new rep in, and we're also going to look at some of the work that we start off with in our sessions or in our class today, and how that interrelates into helping our upright work on the Wunda chair. So things like our leg and foot work or our seated leg and foot work. So we're going to be doing some work on the mat before that to lead us into that, to sort of get us ready to understand how to work with the chair a little bit better in that position, but also to help us with that too. So we will start off laying onto our stomach for our prone breathing. You'll lay yourself down with your head placed on top of your hands, and the shoulders are starting to just let go a little bit. So as they're starting to be in their almost their natural positioning on that rib cage, instead of being held up or you're trying to pull them back, just let them find the shape of the rib cage and stay there. Legs are out nice and long, not flopping out, having some sort of energy out through there. As you take your first breath in, through the nose, filling out the ribs, into the belly, and find how that opens you up through the back of your body. And then as you breathe out, you're starting to close all that off and let that breath pull back into its natural shape of the body. You breathe in again, through the nose, focusing on that expansion through the back of the ribs, through that low back because the belly's opening up. And then as you breathe out through the mouth, letting that body come back to its natural shape and positioning. Good, as we go again. And we're going to do about 3 or 4 more. And I want you to continue to start to find that interrelation of the back of the body, how our breath helps us expand through the back of the body, but also axially out through the pelvis and head. Now we're going to go into our posterior lateral breathing, which you're going to find a lot easier probably to get that feedback here, because laying on our stomach we can get that feedback on not trying to push forward into the floor, but starting to find that expansion in the back of the ribs and the sides. Good, just about 3 or 4 more here. Last one. Good. From there, we're going to bring our arms around to our side for our basic back extension. So, as we breathe in, the arms are going to pull back. You roll back through the shoulders to find that creates space for your breastbone to swing forward into to create that upper back extension. And then you breathe out to bring it back down. And so I think that's really important that you want to work with the arms first. As you breathe in to find your space, for you then to start to swing forward through the nose, the throat, the breastbone, into our basic back extension, as opposed to thinking of lifting up through there first and the shoulders haven't created the space for your back to extend into. So we're going to do about 4 or 5 more of these. Continuing to keep the energy out through the legs to help set the pelvis as a base for us to extend around and to start building that awareness there and work there for when we do our seated work in a second or later on. Good, last one. Continue to remember, continuing to focus on that space. And then I want you to bring your arms back down under your forehead. And we will go into a rest position soon. But we're actually just going to work on some imprinting here. Now, imprinting is usually done on our backs, right? But here I just want you to start to find some imprinting in your prone position. And just notice how that works when you don't get to push down through the heels and overly work with gravity. How there is a natural rocking and rolling that has to happen from the inner thigh, the hamstrings, the abdominals, but also more importantly, a lot of those deep spinal and back musculature has to really get involved. And so when we are doing our seated work, all this musculature is what really sets us in good place for that upright stability. Still working on that articulation. Nothing changes in our imprinting in this position. Last one. Good, and then I'll just get you to briefly sit into a rest position here, sitting back onto your heels, just to reopen up through that back musculature for a couple of breaths. Good. So from there we're going to lay down onto our back, into our supine start position. And we've already done our breathing, so we're not going to revisit that, but just give yourself just a little bit of time to print that start position for yourself. So checking in on your feet, the positioning in between the width of the hips, the activity between the 3 points of pressure or that tripod of pressure into your little big toe, little toe, and heel. After that work in your back, do you find it easier to actually find the weight in the pelvis, the arch in the lumbar, the weight in the ribs, even the arch in the back of the neck? Good. From there, we're actually going to revisit imprinting again, but just in our supine. And almost what you learnt when doing it prone, can you start to work a little bit more team-like or evenly through front and back of body? Not just thinking it's all abs, or not just thinking it's all hamstrings or spine, that they all have their role to play. And do you actually find that that synergy now is a little bit easier after working our back in a sort of a deep spine centric to start off with that imprint in the previous exercise? Nice. Last one. Good. From there, we're going to roll up into our pelvic curl. So continuing the imprint, rolling all the way up into the top, reaching those knees over the feet. Breathe into hold. As you breathe into hold, find that evenness between front and back of body again. The pull versus the suspension. And then you start to roll back down, maintaining somewhat of that pull and suspension to give you license to articulate through that spine. Good. We're just going to do 4 more today. So breathing out, find that imprinting. Continue the roll up, being very aware of your spinal articulation. Breathing in at the top. And breathing out to roll back down. Continuing to maintain that equilibrium of the pull and the suspension. Good. 3 more. Two. Remembering about that equilibrium. Lucky last. And pulling that pelvis right out to its neutral positioning, working through the deep hip and spine. From here, we float one leg up to tabletop, working on that deep frontal crease. As we maintain that, we bring the next leg up. Good. We fold one leg down, followed by the other. Now, as you work through these, I want you to find that equilibrium of front to back again, sort of like what we've been working on with our imprints as such, but there is no movement now. So it's the same musculature, but now the musculature stops you from moving to find that deep work into stabilizing the pelvis and the trunk. So muscles that move you can also halt movement. Good, we're just going to do 1 more each side. And then the next one, we're going to stay up. Bringing our feet together. Knees can be apart or parallel, whatever you find comfortable. Arms are going to come out to 45 degrees, and you're going to breathe in for your first spine twist. Once again, starting to focus on that front and back equilibrium of the body as it works. So can you actually use not only the front of the abdominal wall to rotate, but also the support of the spinal extensors? Can they actually find a bit more teamwork between the two of them? That way you keep your length and you don't start to collapse and imprint onto that mat. Lucky last. But then bringing it back into center and floating one leg down, followed by the other. Now, if you are still wanting that challenge work, you can still keep your legs up to tabletop, or we bring them back down for our chest lifts. So we're just going to bring our hands behind our head. And then from there, my microphone. So we're bringing our hands behind our head for our chest lift. Trying to find that reach out through the pelvis again, and almost that equilibrium of work in the deep hip and front and back of body. From there, I'm breathing out to come up into the chest lift, and then back down. So what did your prone imprints and your supine imprints now teach you on what to do as we come up into our chest lift and flex the spine, to be able to learn how to keep that pelvis long instead of collapsing or tilting at it to try and get your flexion. Good, one more. And then we are going to stay here for our hulas. So we're going to breathe out, diagonally moving into our right, in back to our center. See if we can actually maintain that length out through the pelvis now. And just like we did with our spine twists, we are here not just trying to use the front wall, but we're also using parts of that back tissue to help find the stability in the spine. Doesn't mean we're gripping at it, but there is going to be some eccentric qualities in its work. Last one. Back into center and down. Now that we have done our foundational series, we are going to go into our roll-ups. And once again, using what we've learnt with our pelvis and spine, we're going to now apply it to the roll-up. So as you breathe in, you're coming into that chest lift, still trying to find that length out through the legs, almost like you're trying to push at something. You'd notice how I've pushed at the Wunda chair. Then folding up and over. So there is this opposing force that has to come through your legs and your pelvis to help find the grounding for you to curl up over your spine in here. Good. And then from there, we're sitting right up onto the front edge of those sitting bones. And then as we start to roll back over the back edge of the sitting bones, we're still finding that force or reach of the pelvis going the other way to where we're rolling. Good, as we breathe in again, to our chest lift, out, to fold over, and to stack it tall. And so using a little bit of that deep hip now to actually find that lift out of the pelvis. It's not just back. And then rolling back from there. Good. One more as we breathe in. Find that length as we come back up out of the pelvis itself. Good. So from there, we are going to use the chair. I want you to place probably one top spring on, will most likely be enough. And it might be, you know, I think you've got to sort of have a look at it and see, well, when you pull down on the pedal, are you starting to move that pelvis around? Is it too much loading or not enough that you either get too much feedback and you can't maintain it, or not enough feedback where you don't know where you are in space? And what we're going to do is we're going into our floor frog. So we're going to start off with feet together and hips externally rotated. Now, a lot of us will see floor frog open right up into external rotation, and that is really good. However, it's nice to see your floor frog on a tight hip male like myself. So yes, I'm externally rotating, but I'm not getting as far into my external rotation as what others do. And that's only because I don't have it. But I can still work with my floor frog. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find that diamond shape. And then from there, we're breathing out and continuing to work the width of that diamond. So externally rotating to hold or pull down. From there, we're going to hold for 3 counts. And then bring it back. Continuing to still work some of that external rotation, but under control as it comes back. Good. We go again, breathing out. Find that external rotation to almost pull the pedal in towards us. So expanding, almost feel like we're expanding our diamond out, not just trying to shorten the heels to the butt. Good, and then we return. Now the fun part of all this is that all that work that we've done in and around the pelvis just comes into play here to actually keep that grounding in the pelvis. So where is that equilibrium? It's not just the jam down. There is a sort of equal front and back force to find length in that pelvis, which does help with the grounding. And it's something for us to move around on at the hip. Good, we're just going to do one more. And back. Good. And then I just want you to take your legs and you're going to bring them out on either side of your chair. And then just have a see if you can roll up from here, so without your legs together. And because you don't get to rely on the full closure and squeeze of that pelvis, it adds a little bit more of a challenge to roll ourselves up. From here, we're going to grab our box, okay? Now, what I would like you to do is we are going to do our seated triceps and shrugs. I'm going to increase my spring because I need it for my feedback. But you know, you're looking between 2 springs to 1 spring. I'm going to go a middle and a bottom. And we're going to set up our box just in front of the pedal where it drops and then sitting on top. And as we're sitting on top, we are having our knees bent. And I don't just want your knees bent and your feet planted. You almost want to have your knees bent, feet plant, but you're pulling or you're closing that space again, sort of like what we do out of the imprint, okay? That way, when you get that, do you notice how my low back doesn't have to do as much work as I pull? Because I actually get my pelvis in place, and then I actually get to the opportunity to evenly work over my pelvis. So even though your legs are there, I still want them to do a little bit of work. And so you're going to continue to try and pull that space between heels and hips. Hands are on the pedal. We're going to breathe in to elevate the shoulders. And then breathe out. Depress the shoulders to directly push into the pedal. So you want to feel the pedal directly at the shoulders and the shoulder blades and the upper back, as opposed to searching for it. So the length out of the arms is really important to get that direct relationship there. Last one. Then as we're down, we're going to bend the elbows back to lift the pedal and press for our tricep press. Once again, continuing to try and find that pull at heels to hips to help with our upright seating. And try not to lose that as the elbows lift. So when we get to that top point, if we are getting into a stretch point of that shoulder girdle, we might want to drop out of it. So you want to almost feel like that pull of the heels to hips even helps even further. Just support that body. Lucky last. And then bring that pedal back up. Good, so we can remove the box, unless you do need it for your seated TheraBand arms. We will remove it, and we are going to replace it with our TheraBand. And so we are sitting up in front of us with legs out in front now, okay? And from here, what I would like you to do is, even though you don't get to have that pull so much of the flat feet into the hips now, you still want to use all those techniques that you've been practicing to help support how you sit up. So yes, legs are out long, but you've almost got to still feel like you are drawing in feet to hips. And so then from there, we're going to bring the TheraBand around the feet, continuing that draw. You're going to breathe out to pull the band back for our row. And then forward. Palms can roll down as they do that. And then we're pulling back and we're pulling those palms up. That's it. And so yes, the movement is at the arms, but once again, being able to work that soaking up of space in the front of the hip, the inner thighs, and then being able to lift easier out of that pelvis via the rib cage and trunk. Notice how the pelvic floor starts to feel a little bit less grabbier in its lift. 2 more. Lucky last. Good, as we then take that band, it's going to come around the base of the shoulder blades or low ribs for us to once again find our upright positioning. Now that we don't have the band there, that suction gets a little bit harder again around the feet. So trying to pull back in, getting up onto those sit bones. We're going to cut a tree. We're going to breathe out to push out. in to find our expansion. The arms will help with the expansion, so you want to have energy out through them. Breathing out to pull in to come home. Use your stance to find your height. You can see how much I am actually working in my legs and hips to try and keep that pull. So if you find that really difficult or unsustainable, please put a yoga block underneath you or even a scooter box. From there, we just take our hands or adjust our hands so we can hold it up and down into our body. And from here, which I am going to grab a scooter box for, because I need to make sure that my hips don't get too fatigued before my leg and footwork. And also with the positioning of these arms, the challenge at that upright seated position is even harder again for our triceps. So hand goes to the low back, other hand sort of neck or skull. And then all we're doing is we're breathing out to pull ourselves up into our tricep press. Three more. Two. Last one. Good, and then we swap. Now to swap, all you need to do is sort of swivel the arms to be able to get changed to the other side without letting go of the band. Once again, we're trying to find that pull at the hips and then lifting up and through. Last one. And rest. So your band, and if you were on a box, can go away. Okay. We're now going to bring ourselves up onto the Wunda chair for our leg and footwork. So by now you've probably figured out your spring if you have been following the community classes for your leg and footwork. And so you'll start on that standard spring. I'm going to choose one top and a bottom on this chair, okay? And, excuse me, we are going to sit ourselves up onto the chair, just getting ourselves set before we touch the pedal. So as in, what I want you to do is I want you to bring yourself into a position where your feet, or your pretty much almost your heels, or just in front of your heels, would be touching the ground where the pedal lays when you press it. So instead of trying to set yourself up and going, well, where do I sit on the pedal, or on the chair, sorry, it's, well, actually, how do you look at that bottom point, which is where you would want to be. So that will tell you how far forward you need to sit for your own body. Are your thighs going to get in the way of the press? Yep. Is the chair the right size for you? Because all chairs are different heights, okay? And then from there, we are then going to put our feet onto the pedal. And you'll notice straight away that I am able to actually sit myself in front, on the front edge of those sits bones, or those ischials, and that upright. So from here, it's the same thing of what we've learnt throughout the session, is that as we push down through our press, how does that equilibrium of front and back of trunk, of the hips, that push-pull mechanism in the legs to hips, A, move the pedal, but also B, helps you stay upright and stacked and disassociate through that leg movement. Good, one more. And then we're onto our toes. Same thing, finding that pressure through the balls of the toes. All toes are represented onto your pedal. As we continue that work. Yes, it gets harder because there's more limb, because we've included the foot into the same space. So we have more body, less space to fit it in. Into our toes V. Looking at our floor frog. How does the external rotation, that spiraling of the pull, get the pedal to move? And then our work through our different various imprints get us to do our seated leg and footwork in a stable position. So what you might find is the key importance to sometimes your warm-up or the beginning of your session is to set you up for the rest of the class or the rest of your session or the rest of your workout. So don't underestimate what some of those focus points will do to the rest of our motions. Good, we'll go into heels wide, same deal. Last one. As we then move into toes. And so continuing to find that work that we learnt in floor frog and our imprints and the rest of the work that we continued into our foundational series and our seated arm series, and it all just falls into place into our leg and footwork. Last one for the toes wide. Good, and then from there we're going to leave the pedal alone. You're going to hop yourself up, we're going to turn around, we are going to go into our calf press work now. So hopefully it is the same spring or similar, okay? That the spring is not too heavy where you feel like you've got to use your whole leg, but it's not too light that you don't get that feedback in and around the foot, the toes, to lead in the work of the foot first before we start to jam at the calf. So leg comes back, we'll go fingertips length with long arms. That will hopefully set us into a position where we're long from head to tail. And then today we're going to try and challenge our balance by keeping our hands off. You start to find the pedal first to push through not only the big toe but reciprocate the pressure of the little toe, to press down, and then feel like you pull the heel back and down to bring the pedal up. Good, we're going to do about 4 more, 5 more. Remembering that pull of the heel back, finding the length out through the back of the Achilles. You know, and just double check, put your fingertips down. Are you still at the same height of the box, or have you started to stand up? So once again, that work at the pelvis and trunk sets us in this position here. Last one. Good, hands will come down if they're not down already. And you're going to stand yourself back up and just swap the positioning of your feet. We step up onto that pedal. Hands come down to assist, and then you've got your kneecap just above the edge of the chair. From there, we're setting up at that fingertip length again, making that long set from head to heel of the standing leg. And finding that balance again. Once again, big toe with counted little toe pressure to press down, so we're not rolling in or out, it's a spiral. And then that glide back and down of the heel to bring the pedal up. Good, last one. And then back. Bring the hands back down to help you off. And bring that pedal up to the stopper before you stand yourself back up. Okay, so from here what we're going to do is we're going to bring ourselves back around behind. Okay. I'm going to drop it down to 2 bottom. Okay, for myself, being a male, and of my weight. But you know, it could be something like 1 top for our washerwoman too, or even a middle. Okay, you don't want it too light though. You do want a bit of feedback. We're coming out in front. I'm going to get you to bring your arms overhead for me. So I'm going to move that microphone around a little bit. Arms overhead. And you want to breathe out to roll down to find that pedal without sort of leaning forwards or back into your weight. See if you can distribute it. Once you find the pedal, breathe in to push through. Into that pedal. Then breathe out to cat stretch it up. Breathe in to press through the pedal starts to go away. And as soon as you find your weight start to skim forward, then try and focus more into extension into it, like you're almost pushing your thoracic into that pedal. And then back. Now, if we think about that responsibility around the pelvis and the lumbar, this is literally just our prone imprinting that we started off with at the start of the session. Good, we're going to make one more. Last one. And then see if we can roll it all the way back up to our standing position. Very nice. So I'm going to keep it on the same spring, but you can move it around from between 1 top to 2 bottom for our side reach. Okay. You're going to sit on the chair and don't sit on the base of your pelvis. See if you can sit on the corner of your buttocks. Hook the front leg around the chair and then planting the bottom leg out long. We're then going to press down through the arm, find our space into our chest, and then breathe in to reach through to press the pedal downwards and outwards. And then breathing out to come back up. So hopefully now you're actually starting to feel as we go through our lateral work, this separation between the length of the pelvis and the leg and the rest of the torso. And that beauty about that separation and control of motion is that we're starting to use all the individual properties of the pelvis in a certain way, and then disassociating that up through the trunk for its lateral flexion. So then when we talk about good core or core control or strong core, are we seeing this as a dynamic object that can disassociate and not just be this rigid, stiff cylinder all the time? Good, we're going to do one more. Good, then we'll go to the other side. Same thing, sitting into the corner of the pelvis. So you're not sitting upright, you're sitting into that corner of the buttocks, wrapping that front foot around, planting the long leg. Find your expansion through your arms. As you breathe in, to find not a press down, but an arc long. So you're trying to find that separation, not just up and down, but laterally out. Three more. Last one. Good. So from here, we're going to go into our basic swan, or our swan basic. So I'm going to go into a top spring. Okay, and we're setting ourselves up into a position where pretty much your shoulders should be over the pedal. Okay? But having said that, there is sort of an evenness between the real estate of your stomach and your thighs on the box itself. So what I mean by that is you don't want to be too far forward where you feel like it's all thighs and pelvis on the box, or too far back where you feel like it's all stomach and pelvis. You want something in between, all the pelvis and a little bit of each of the abdomen and the thighs. So lengthening out through those legs, we're going to do the same philosophy as we've spoken about in our other sessions, that you're going to breathe in and pull the pedal upwards and inwards towards the hip. Using those shoulder girdles, like we did in our basic back extension, to open up, to find the space for our thoracic to extend through. So it's a pull of the pedal to find your space. Good, we're going to do one more. And then on this one, I don't want you to come all the way down. I want you to drop a little bit. And then from there, we're going to pull the pedal up and press it down. Now, it should feel that it is a tension that you don't really get overly cooked in the arms, but the releasing of the pedal challenges your upper back extension. So you get less feedback of the pedal here, which makes you work harder into your back extensors, and then you get the support again. So you're trying to keep your extended position and work the arms. Good, one more of the elbows back for triceps, and then we're going to go palms in and go elbows out for our shoulder press. Once again, push-pulling the pedal and suspending through our back extensors into our shoulder press. Two more. So no bouncing of the body. Last one. Good. And then bring the pedal down and you can roll yourself back and off. So, just for our little cool down series, what I'm going to get us to do is grab our pole. And from there, we're going to bring our hands down in front of us, you know, slightly wider than the shoulders, okay? As I want you to breathe in, bring the arms up and behind. Don't even bring them behind your body yet, just behind your head and then back. Good, we're going to do a few like this. When we come up, just try to pull the shoulders back without you overly pushing your torso forward, and then back down. We'll go one more like this, breathing in to lift, letting the collarbones roll, back. Then we're going to add a little pullback. So you're going to come up, breathing in, then the collarbones roll, bend the elbows to almost find more expansion through our chest, and then back and down. Now as we work this, and you come up and you let those collarbones roll, and then you start to bend the elbows behind you, don't push the ribs forward or the head to make space for the pole. See if you can do it by expanding the shoulder. Two more. Last one. Good. I lied because we have to get the pole behind our shoulders. I'm going to bring it back again, and we're just going to put that pole behind our shoulders. Now you can bring the arms out a little bit further, and I do like these long poles so I can actually get full purchase of my shoulder girdle around the pole. We're continuing with our feet about hip width apart. You're just going to breathe in and sort of press out through your feet to find that stability in the pelvis as we wrap, or laterally flex our trunk over it. Breathing in, find that wrap and stability through the stance of the legs. And so as you go through this, a lot of people want to drop and kick the hip out. That's why we want to find that pressure in their legs and the hips. So then as we come up and over, it's an expansion of one side of the rib cage as we compress the other side to start that work. Almost like a slinky opening up and over itself. One side expands for it to go over, the other side compresses so it can expand. I'm just going to do one more on the other side. Before we go into our spine twist, which is the same deal as that we want to move through the thoracic or the rib cage and keep that stance in the feet quite strong and pressing out of the floor. And the reason we want to do this is because we need to feel if the pelvis is coming along with us. And so as we twist, we're trying to stand out of the floor, keeping our pelvis pointed forward and back. So as we twist to the left here, my legs and hips are actually having to almost feel like they go to the right, just to keep them in front. So it's a real definition of a twist, as opposed to rolling the face of the body to one side. Good, making sure we're finding that breath out on the twists, just to help find more rotation at the rib cage. Good, and we'll bring it back to center as our last one. You can now put the pole away, and all we're going to do to finish off with, which is a nice little one for us to do, is just a couple of roll downs. So if you've got a wall, use a wall if you feel like you need more feedback for that body. But I just want you to breathe out. You're going to roll the head off the shoulders, let the shoulders roll around the ribs, and that instigates the ribs rolling over themselves as we start to peel down vertebrae by vertebrae. Now our depth depends on that we're finding more flexion in our spine, not hanging off the hips. So are we using our legs as a supportive tool? Not just a way that a lot of people think it's, can I touch my toes? We're not overly looking at that. We're looking at trying to find full articulation in the spine and opening up our back chain as a whole, not just one area. Breathing in at the bottom, finding that expansion. And breathing out to roll it back up. We'll just do one more. And up. Nice work. And that is another National Pilates Training community class done on the Wunda chair. All of our repertoire was either basic to intro level. Yeah, and I hope you sort of got some understanding on, you know, how we can actually use our warm-up in a way that's going to set the standard for everything else, and that the importance of that as well. Plus the importance of evenness in our pelvic work and our lumbar work. And that it doesn't have to be too technical. So the base that we built at the start just took us through the work through the body and the end of our workout. So essentially, you know, what we build there, we don't have to over talk about or over cue if we can just keep referring back to those principles at the start that we built. So mastering one or two things in our session as opposed to trying to go through 3,475. Maybe not that many, but a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. You have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.